Does Ferrari really have a champion car? Or have Hamilton and Leclerc just uncovered a problem that Maranello did not want to come to light before Australia? Because what they said after the Bahrain tests was not the typical pre-season diplomatic speech. It was a clear message. The SF26 is fast, yes, but it lives on the edge. And when a car depends on such a narrow window to function, the difference between dominating and suffering can be a matter of millimeters in the setup, or a simple variation in track temperature. Ferrari arrives in Australia with a dangerous mix of excitement and pressure. After the Bahrain tests, the SF26 left very clear feelings inside the garage. The car is fast, it has real potential to fight from the first race, but it is not a forgiving car. It is not a car that allows improvisations. It works when everything fits, and when something moves outside its ideal range, weaknesses appear starkly. Lewis Hamilton's statements marked the first turning point. The Briton was direct in describing traction and stability in medium-speed corners as an obvious improvement over the previous year. He spoke of a more solid platform, of a car that finally exudes confidence and support, something that Ferrari had pursued for months. But it didn't stop there. He also made it clear that there were still behaviors that required adjustments before the start of the championship. It was not a destructive criticism, but an internal message. The car is not finished, and if we want to fight for the title, the room for improvement must be activated now. Charles Leclerc was even more technical in his reading. The Monégasque focused on the correlation between simulator, wind tunnel, and track. An apparently neutral phrase, but with enormous weight within a structure like Ferrari. When a pilot points out that not everything fits between the data and real behavior, he is pointing directly to the reliability of the development. SF26 may be quick on the numbers, but if the correlation isn't perfect, future progress becomes unpredictable. That was the real impact. It was not a public crisis, it was a forced acceleration of internal work. Ferrari understood that its drivers were setting priorities. The long runs in Bahrain showed competitive pace, but also revealed aerodynamic sensitivity to changes in wind and temperature. The car has a very narrow operating window. In its sweet spot, it is extremely efficient. Stable load, good traction, solid balance. Beyond that, balance problems and more delicate turbo management appear that can alter power delivery at critical moments. That is why the package of updates that Ferrari brings to Australia is real but partial. It is not a revolution, it is a correction. Adjustments intended to slightly expand that operating window, to reduce dependence on perfect conditions. Because on a circuit like Albert Park, where the evolution of the track and possible climatic variations can alter the balance, a car that is too sensitive can go from dominant candidate to difficult-to-tame machine in a matter of laps. Internally, the atmosphere is what we could call tense optimistic. There is trust at the base of SF26. Hamilton feels that the car has part of his DNA, that the philosophy adopted is close to what he asked for. Leclerc acknowledges that the platform is more predictable than in the past. But both have made it clear that it is not enough to be fast on a lap or in specific conditions. Consistency is the key. And therein lies the core of the problem. Ferrari doesn't need a car that shines occasionally. You need one that will operate at any temperature, with any fuel level, and under any strategic pressure. The words of his pilots were not an attack. They were a requirement. If this SF26 wants to be a champion car, it must expand its margin for error. Australia will be the first real test. Not just pure rhythm, but of Ferrari's ability to respond when the car leaves its ideal zone. Because the talent is there. The speed is there, but stability is still under examination. Australia is not just the first race on the calendar. It is the first real exam for the SF26 outside of the controlled testing environment. In Bahrain, Ferrari was able to work with defined programs, known fuel loads, and relatively stable conditions. In Albert Park, everything changes. The asphalt evolves, the temperature fluctuates, the wind can alter aerodynamic behavior, and competitive pressure forces the limits to be pushed. This is where Hamilton and Leclerc's statements take on even greater weight. Because if the SF26 depends on a narrow operating window, Australia is the perfect setting to put it at risk. A semi-urban circuit with strong acceleration zones, aggressive braking, and direction changes that punish any instability in the front or rear axle. If the balance is not perfect, the car can become nervous in support or imprecise in traction. Hamilton was clear that the foundation is solid, but there are still behaviors that need adjustment. That, translated into technical language, means that the car responds well when it is in its ideal range of downforce and tire temperature, but can lose consistency when those parameters shift. And in the race, these movements are inevitable. Wear and tear, traffic, dirty air, climate changes. Leclerc, when talking about correlation, left an even deeper strategic warning. If the predictive model does not accurately reproduce what happens on the track, each setting change becomes a small leap of faith. And in such a sensitive car, a small steering error can cost vital tenths or cause an uphill weekend. Ferrari comes with partial updates precisely to reduce that vulnerability. They are not looking for more pure speed. They seek stability. They seek to expand the range in which the car behaves coherently. It's a smart move, but it also reveals something. They know the current margin is too fine to sustain a title fight all season. Australia then becomes more than just the first date on the calendar. It becomes the emotional and technical validation of the project. If the car works within its window, if the updates manage to expand that operating margin, Ferrari will not only score points, it will send a direct message to the rest of the grid. It will confirm that the potential seen in Bahrain was not a controlled test illusion, but a competitive reality. But if the SF26 shows that sensitivity that is so worrying, if it becomes unstable outside this sweet spot, if the correlation once again raises doubts, if the management of balance under pressure is not consistent, then the discourse will change immediately. What today is tense optimism could be transformed into internal questioning. And that's where the psychological factor comes in. Hamilton arrives at Ferrari at a key moment in his career. He did not come to rebuild, came to win. His confidence in the project is based on the feeling that this car has a philosophy aligned with his style. But if the operating window remains too narrow, even a 7-time world champion needs more than talent to make up for it. Leclerc, for his part, has experienced too many seasons where the car promised more than it delivered. If the SF26 finally manages to be consistent, its natural speed can make it a real contender. But if unpredictability returns, emotional exhaustion also returns. The real challenge for Ferrari is not to make the car faster. It's making it more forgiving, more adaptable, more stable in variable conditions. Because a champion car is not the one with the highest peak performance. It is the one with the most solid base for 20 races. The words of its pilots did not generate a crisis. They generated an obligation. Now Ferrari cannot hide behind cautious speech. They have recognized that the car is fast. They have recognized that it has structural risks. They have recognized that the window is narrow. And when you yourself define the problem publicly, the only way out is to solve it on the track. Australia will be the first thermometer. It will not decide the title, but it will show if the SF26 is really the weapon that can return Ferrari to the top, or if it remains a brilliant but fragile car. Because in modern Formula One, the difference between dominating and disappointing is not just about speed. It's in the consistency. And that is the test that Ferrari is beginning to take now. Ferrari does not arrive in Australia simply as a competitive team. It arrives as a team exposed by its own ambition. Hamilton and Leclerc's statements after Bahrain were not controversial, but they were deeply revealing. They confirmed that the SF26 has real speed, a solid base and potential that was not seen so clearly in previous seasons. But they also made something equally clear. This car lives at the limit of its own precision. It has a narrow operating window. It has aerodynamic sensitivity. It has structural details that, if not perfectly calibrated, can compromise performance. And when your own drivers say it publicly, the internal message is unmistakable. It's not enough to be promising. Ferrari is at a turning point. If the updates in Australia manage to widen that window, if the car proves consistent under pressure, then the SF26 could become the tool that gets the Scuderia back into real championship contention. But if that sensitivity persists, if the correlation raises doubts again, or if the car only shines in ideal conditions, then the risk is evident. The season could become a technical roller coaster. What makes this situation different is that now there are no invisible excuses. Hamilton has made it clear that he feels his DNA in the project. Leclerc has pointed out exactly where the critical areas are. The route sheet is marked. The problem is identified. The responsibility now falls entirely on the team's ability to react. Let me know in the comments what you think about all this.